This is the True Believers Bible Study with Ray McCollum. Let's figure things out.
Welcome, True Believers, back to the True Believers Bible Study, where we're looking at the 7 different expressions of the will of God. That God's will is a term that we throw around a lot without truly understanding all the dimensions of it, the different expressions of it. The sovereign will of God is His decrees, things that when He speaks or declares His will, it will happen. Nothing can stop it. But then at the same time, there is a revealed will of God and a secret will of God. The Bible is the will of God revealed, but there are still secret things that God does not explain to us that happen. And those expressions come in the 2 we looked at last time, the active will of God and the passive will of God. That God's active will is expressed when He acts, when God does something, when He intervenes. He would never do anything that is not in accordance with His will. So God's acts are an expression of His will. At the same time, there are times when God does not act. That is the passive will of God. There are things that happen God's not pleased with, but He is passive. He does not intervene. He does not stop it. It's His, sometimes this is called His permissive will. If God is sovereign and nothing can happen without at least His allowing it to happen, and of course, if He's sovereign, then those things happen. And we don't know why sometimes in His secret will. At the same time, we don't understand, but that doesn't mean that God is not in charge. He permits it to happen. He's passive. He does not act. Now, today we come to one of the most important expressions of the will of God, and I think probably one of the easiest to understand, and that is called His preceptive will. That is from the term precept, and that describes how we know the will of God through His precepts, or what we call His commandments. There are positive precepts, such as honor thy father and thy mother. That's a very positive commandment, a positive precept. Is this something that we are to do? We are to honor our father and mother. We are not to steal. Or the negative is, thou shalt not steal, or thou shalt not kill. Those are things we ought not do. So the preceptive will of God are His commandments. The positive side, things we are to do. The negative side is when He expresses His will in a precept or commandment about what we are not to do. We're not to kill, not to steal. We're not to covet. Many of His commandments are preceptive commandments are negative. But then this is so important to understand, this part right here about understanding God's precepts. His permissive will, in the sense that He said, for example, to Adam and Eve, of all the trees of the garden you may freely eat. But then there's a prohibition, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat of it. So the positive commandment was eat of all the trees in the garden. But the prohibitive side of His preceptive will is, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat. So eat and not eat. Those are expressions of His preceptive will. Now, this dimension of God differs from the others in that while God reveals His will to us in His commandments and precepts, He allows men to disobey His preceptive will. As I said, when He decrees His will, nothing can stop it. Nothing can change it. There will always be summer and winter, cold and heat, seed time and harvest, day and night. God spoke His will sovereignly, and nothing can stop that. Nothing can change it. But when He gives commandments, He allows us to not do his will or to violate his will. The fact that he tells us, thou shalt not steal, does not mean we don't steal. If it was a decree, thou shalt not steal, then we could not steal. There's no way we could. But in his preceptive will, he allows disobedience. So God, again, speaks his will in commandments, but he does not force us to obey, or he does not provoke us to disobey. He's active in giving the preceptive commandments, but he's passive in the sense that he does not force us to keep them. Now, when you become a Christian, when you are saved, the Bible clearly tells us that God works in his redeemed people to empower and enable them to do righteousness and to live godly lives. But he does not work in the same way in the unrighteous. This is a kind of double predestination. This proves double predestination view is not an error. In other words, that God has destined some to be saved, but he's prevented others. That's an error. God is active toward the elect, but he's passive toward sinners in the sense that he allows them to sin. And that is the expression of his preceptive will. Christians are under obligation to keep the moral law of God. We don't have to keep the ceremonial laws. We don't kill bulls and goats anymore. We don't have to worry about wearing garments that are of mixed clothing, of mixed materials like cotton and wool. But at the same time, the moral law is in effect. Jesus said, I didn't come to do away with the law, but to fulfill it. So the Christian is under obligation to study God's preceptive will and to understand what he has told us to do and what he has forbidden us to do. And that preceptive will of God, the scary thing is God will allow us to go against his will. He allows men to sin. And in a Christian, he is at work to give us the power to not sin. And that's what we call the preceptive will of God expressed through his commandments. We'll be back next time. We'll continue this study. I hope it's been a blessing to you. Like us online, share us on the social platforms, and help us to spread the word of God throughout the world. Till next time, God richly bless you and yours.
True Believers Bible Study is made possible by people just like you. To make a donation, please visit truebelieversbiblestudy.com.